Share via email. Report story. So, as per usual, I do not own Boku no Hero Academia, its characters, or its locations. They are all owned by Kohei Horikoshi, Jump Comics, and Funimation. Now, here, as family matters. Well, here it is, Izuku Midoriya said to the 6-year-old girl who was holding his right hand, your new home. It had been 4 weeks since Eri's rescue from the 8 precepts of death. After all the heroes had recovered to full health, the big question that came up among the teachers was what to do with Eri. After an hour of deliberation, it was agreed by everyone that she should stay at Ua in order to keep here safe. However, this posed another question. Where should she stay? Many teachers offered to let her stay with them. Even Mirio offered to let her stay with him and the other big three members. However, during her time in the infirmary, the headmaster noticed that Eri was calm and happy whenever Midoriya came to visit her. He then decided that for the time being, Eri would live with Class 1A with Midoriya as her temporary guardian. Eri looked up at Class 1A's dormitory and was immediately fascinated by it. The build was 5 stories tall and stood out like a glistening tower of brick and glass. It was completely different from the gloomy, dark, and secluded quarters she was used to. She began to walk with Midoriya toward both the glass door leading into the dormitory and her new life. As soon as she entered the building, she saw what looked like a kitchen with a refrigerator, stove, sink, microwave, and other appliances. Sitting around a table almost as long as the room itself were a group of people around the same age as Midoriya. Some looked like ordinary people while others had facial and body features that made them stand out among the others. As soon as they saw both her and Midoriya, they arose from their chairs and walked towards them. Suddenly, a girl with pink hair and pink skin rushed forward toward Eri, bending a bit to Eri's height and with a huge smile on her face. Well, aren't you just the cutest thing? She exclaimed. This sudden move scared Eri and she hid behind Midoriya's legs and sobbed softly into them. Mina. She peeked an eye around the fabric in her hands to realize this was coming from a floating set of clothes. You scared her. Eri buried her face deeper into Midoriya's legs. It's okay. Eri, we're Deku's friends. Eri loosened her grip on Midoriya's pant legs just a little, the soft, friendly voice making her curious. She peeked out from behind Midoriya to see a girl with chestnut hair and rosy cheeks kneeling a few feet away, holding out her hand. As Eri looked at her, she could have sworn the girl looked vaguely familiar. We won't hurt you, the girl said reassuringly. We promise. Slowly and after a few moments of thought, Eri decided to make her way towards the girl, stepping hesitantly until she placed her hand in the brunette's. The girl's hand was soft and smooth, which gave Eri a strange sense of relief and calm. The girl pulled a handkerchief out of her pocket and gently dabbed the tears from Eri's face. There, she said softly, still smiling reassuringly. It's all right. My name's Uraraka, by the way. Slowly, she stood up and held out her hand. Would you like to meet everyone else? Eri glanced behind Uraraka, biting her lip as her eyebrows furrowed. Quickly, as if the sight of them burned, her eyes flew to the ground between them. A tiny shake of her head was all the response she gave. That's okay. Maybe later, Uraraka said, telling her classmates just as much as she was telling Eri. Would you like to see the rest of your new home? Eri nodded and took Uraraka's hand. They made their way up a flight of stairs, Midoriya following right behind them. As they continued, Eri remembered where she had seen Uraraka before. She was the girl who had helped Midoriya defeat Shisaki and then rescue her. When she realized this, Eri smiled a little at Uraraka, who returned it in kind. Soon, the three of them came in front of a wooden door. Midoriya turned the knob and opened the door to reveal a room that was filled to the brim with what looked like action figures, posters, bed sheets, and pictures of a muscular man with blonde hair and a huge smile. Promoted stories. You'll also like my chat fic Academia 78k 1.1k watts. Up my crackhead, so title says it all, there's going to be ships in here, so buckle up bitches, my ships. Todo Momo, Kiri Baku, Kami Jiro, Toko Suyu, Iida Mei. Todo Momo. After the rainfall 195k 4.1k, the storm only continues raging on, rain descending heavily from above, and Momo and Shoto are in the center of it all. Will they be able to find their way into love too? The merman from a shore mermaid of Bakudaku 90k 2.6k Izuku. Midoriya has been raised by sea creatures and only remembers bits and pieces to where he's from. Izuku decides to go on a journey to find the answers to where he are. Quirkless Police O complete 75.7k 1.7k. This was my first fanfic. It's shitty, be careful. Izuku Midoriya, quirkless police officer. After his interaction with All Might, he gave up on being a hero. He decide, I am here for you Izuocha 250k 4.7k characters. And settings all owned and created by Kohei Horikoshi. This is a non-profit fanfiction edited by Nimish Wenkade and Kaori112 Arc 1. Ochako is worried a boo. Marikai Aizawa and Eri X Girl. Reader fanfic 143k 4.8k completed. Virtual. An underground pro hero with a quirk similar to that of telepathy but can transmit a whole scenario into someone's mind. Through the years, she's only. This is your room, you'll be sharing it with me. Midoriya said as he, Uraraka and Eri walked inside to get a better view. Eri then noticed a little bed that had blankets, a comforter, and a nice fluffy pillow on the opposite side of the room. And that is your bed? Midoriya said as she looked at it with question. Eri then looked up at one of the posters with the blonde man, pointed at it and asked, Grandpa Might. Both Midoriya and Uraraka felt as though their hearts skipped a few beats by this. To them, hearing this 6-year-old calling All Might, Grandpa, was so adorable. Yes, Eri, Midoriya said, that's Grandpa Might. Eri's gaze then moved to a wood dresser drawer. Following her gaze, Uraraka opened up the one on the bottom to reveal what was inside. It was filled with t-shirts, shorts, pants, undies, dresses, and a whole array of other clothing. Eri's eyes widened at the sight. While you were recovering in the hospital, the other girls and I went out shopping to get you some new clothes. Uraraka said with a smile. Figured you'd want to wear something different than that old rag. Here, she said, pulling out a purple tank top. Let's try this one on. I'll just go ahead and, hey, Midoriya squeaked as he started turning pink and pointing at the door. As he closed the door to give the two girls some privacy, he began to think about Mirio and Sarnidai. Mirio, the hero who wanted to reach for the stars and be as great as All Might. The hero who saw Midoriya as a little brother and saw potential in him to be a great hero. The hero who sacrificed his hopes, dreams, and powers in order to protect Eri from Overhaul and his gang. Midoriya could still remember his words as he sat in his hospital bed. The point is, I'm just fine. I've got Night Eye's foresight on my side. He said with his signature smile, so just smile already, wouldja? Sir Night Eye, he thought. Looking back on him, Midoriya couldn't help but feel a pang in his heart for the hero. The man died trying to protect Midoriya and Eri from Overhaul. He was the hero who at first felt that Midoriya was unworthy of handling One for All and that All Might should have given it to Mirio. In the end, however, he accepted Midoriya as the one who would bring great changes to the world with his quirk. Keep smiling, Midoriya could still hear him say as he lay on his deathbed. Society needs smiles, laughs, and energy to bring about a brighter future. Midoriya couldn't help but smile himself at the memory of those two men. After everything they did for him and Eri, he figured that raising her and following his dream was the least he could do for his fellow intern and former supervisor. At that moment, the door to his room opened slightly to reveal Uraraka with a huge smile on her face. We're ready, she said. Midoriya walked in and didn't have to fake the huge smile that covered his face at what he saw. Eri was now wearing the kid's purple tank top over a white shirt. She was also wearing purple pants and black shoes that were polished and shined. Midoriya then picked up his mirror and pivoted it so that she could get a view of what she looked like. So, what do you think? He asked as he got down on his knees behind her. For a few seconds, there was absolute silence as Eri looked at herself in the mirror. Eri, Midoriya asked in concern when she didn't say anything. Just then, Eri ducked her head and started sobbing. Eri, Uraraka said nervously, if you don't like it, we can return. She didn't get a chance to finish her sentence, because at that moment, Eri had wrapped each arm around Midoriya's and Uraraka's necks and continued to sob into their shoulders. TT thank YYU. She said between sobs. TT thank you BB both so much. Midoriya and Uraraka both looked at her, smiled softly, and wrapped an arm around her to comfort her. They stayed like this for what seemed like an eternity, until they were certain that Eri had stopped crying. Uraraka then took out her neckerchief and dabbed at Eri's eyes to wipe away any tears. Now then, she said as she and Midoriya stood up and each extended a hand to Eri. Want to meet the rest of the students? Eri nodded vigorously and, taking both hands, walked down to the living room with the two friends by her sides. Ah, there you three are, Iida said as he and the rest of Class 1A noticed Midoriya, Uraraka, and Eri coming down the stairs. Upon seeing Eri in her new clothes, many of the girls complimented at how pretty she looked, to which she smiled and giggled. Eri, Uraraka, and Midoriya then sat down on the couch as the chatter died down. We were just discussing some new rules that must be established now that Eri will be staying with. Iida said. So far, we have decided that all of us will assist in taking care of her and teach her various things, such as table manners, how to handle being out in crowds, how to dress, etc. In terms of where she will sleep, it has already been confirmed that she will stay in Midoriya's room as he is her temporary guardian. At this, Midoriya and Uraraka both nodded their approval. I believe the next step is to create some rules. First, no perverted actions and or words are to be used around Eri. He took a moment to shoot a glance at Mineta, the class pervert. Oh sure, Mineta said annoyingly, like I'm the one who's going to scar her for life. Second, Iida said as though he didn't hear Mineta. No profanities or curse words are to be said when Eri is in the same room. You hear that, Bakugo? Kaminari asked, shooting a smug grin at the explosion user. Gotta cut back on the swearing for Eri. You shut your fu, Bakugo began, but stopped when he saw Eri look at him with a puzzled look. Your foo-foo fudging mouth, Kaminari. Bakugo finished with a lot of struggle. Oh, this is going to be good. Kaminari thought with delight. 3. No antagonizing someone just so they slip up and curse in front of Eri. Iida said. Well, there goes the fun in the second rule. Kaminari said sadly, while Bakugo returned the smug grin. And finally, Iida concluded, we must be sure to spend some time with Eri. We may be training to be heroes, but we also have to remember that Eri will need someone to play with her and teach her to have fun. Everyone agree on these rules. All the students nodded their heads in agreement. To them, the rules seemed fair and reasonable. The rest of the day consisted of teaching Eri manners, like eating properly, saying, please, and, thank you, and asking politely for something. To everyone's surprise, Eri turned out to be a pretty fast learner. After being told to use a fork, spoon, or knife to eat her food instead of with her hands, she immediately picked up on it. Soon, the clock in the living room indicated that it was 8 o'clock at night. After the eighth stroke, Eri suddenly yawned. Guess it's time for you to go to bed. Midoriya said as he lifted Eri up and began to carry her up the stairs to his bedroom. Uraraka soon followed behind them. When they reached Midoriya's room, he led Eri and Uraraka in and closed the door to give them time to change Eri. When they were finished, Eri was in a simple, pink nightgown. Uraraka then took her to the bathroom to help her brush her teeth. Soon after, Eri was nestled up in her little bed with Midoriya and Uraraka kneeling down next to her. We got you this little nightlight, Uraraka said as she showed Eri a nightlight that had stars engraved into it. That way, she continued, if you ever need to get up at night or have trouble sleeping, the light will always be there to either guide or calm you. Eri just sat in her bed silently, eyes following her fingers as she traced the design on the blanket. Then, in a voice so quiet that they almost missed it, she said, this is the first time I ever had one. A nightlight? Midoriya asked curiously. Eri shook her head. A bed. Hearing this, Uraraka and Midoriya both looked at each other with concern. Sometime during the day, they had forgotten that Eri never had the best childhood. Being held prisoner by a group of villains, experimented on every day, abused by a man who had no regard for the lives of others, it was the life no person should ever have, let alone a child. Seeing Eri's saddened look, Midoriya placed a hand on Eri's head. I know you didn't have the best life, Eri, he said in a soft voice. Heck, nobody should have gone what you went through. But it's going to be alright. Overhaul is gone, you've been freed, and you are surrounded by people who love and care for you. Even you too, Eri asked both students. Even us, Eri, Uraraka said with a smile. We will care for you no matter what happens. You'll finally be able to live your life like you should. And we promise that we will never treat you like they did. You promise? Eri asked. Uraraka stuck out her pinky finger and said, Pinky promise. Eri locked her own pinky with Uraraka's and gave the gravity user a small smile. Well, Midoriya said, it's time for bed. Good night, Eri. He leaned forward and hugged the little girl. Good night, Papa, Eri said. Good night, Eri. Uraraka said as she too leaned in and hugged her. Good night, Mama, Eri responded sleepily, and with that, she laid her head onto the pillow and closed her eyes. As soon as they were sure she was asleep, Uraraka and Midoriya plugged the nightlight into the wall, turned off the lights, and slowly closed the door so as not to wake her. Well, it's been a long day, Deku. Uraraka said as she yawned. I think I'm gonna go to bed as well. Good night. Good night, Uraraka, Midoriya said as the two students went their separate ways, he going downstairs to chat with the rest of the students and she going upstairs to her own room. As Uraraka walked upstairs, she couldn't help but smile at how happy Eri seemed to finally have a place where she would be loved. She wouldn't have to worry about anyone hurting her or experimenting on her for their own personal gain. She would be able to live a happy life with Class 1A, her papa, and her. Uraraka stopped where she was as she remembered what Eri had called her. She instantly broke out into a cold sweat. Did SS she just CC call me? Mama, she screamed internally. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this chapter of Family Matters. After much deliberation, I have decided that instead of being a one-shot, Family Matters will be a multi-chapter story. There are too many important moments in Eri's new life that cannot be put into a one-shot. So be on the lookout for the next chapter. Don't forget to favorite, comment and follow to get the next chapter. Until then, this is Anime Fan 299,110 telling you all to go beyond. Plus, Ultra, where stories live. Discover